po ang kanyang pangalan. And he is an Executive Assistant 5 doon po sa NHA. So,
professional. He holds before we start, I would like to welcome everyone to this breakout session. Our topic is on procurement efficiency, cultivating skills for optimal results. I again welcome you to the fiscal year 2023 Procurement Summit, building a cadre of procurement professionals as catalysts for innovation and competitiveness, of course, with our official hashtag Procurement Pro Summit, brought to you by none other than the Government Procurement Policy Board Technical Support Office. Again, I am Attorney Joseph Adrian Llames from the National Housing Authority, and I will be your moderator for this breakout session. So a few reminders before we go to the procurement proper and I introduce our speaker. Again, I would like to remind everyone and let us be informed that this event is being recorded and is simultaneously being broadcast live in our official Facebook and YouTube accounts. Please be advised that all questions shall be accommodated by the resource. This will be addressed by the speaker during the open forum at the end of the learning session. We will start, of course, with the Zoom questions, then the on-site or live questions. For our Zoom participants, please drop your questions on our Zoom chat box or Q&A facility. For our on-site participants, kindly use the microphones that have been provided. There's one in front and on the sides as well. When you before you ask your questions, of course, please state your name and affiliation. Before we start, will there be another raffle draw or okay? Okay, so mamaya na lang siguro yung next na raffle. Congrats muna dun sa mga winners. To the winners, kindly proceed to the summit photo wall after our session in order to claim your special tokens. So at this point, let us proceed with the lecture proper. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our session's resource speaker. Our resource speaker is a seasoned supply chain professional. He holds valuable expertise in operations and supply chain management, especially procurement logistics, inventory management, information technology. He has a wide-ranging experience in various industries, from telecoms, construction, pharmaceuticals, industrial chemicals, retail, online sales, and direct selling. He holds a degree in industrial engineering from the University of the Philippines and completed his management development program at the Asian Institute of Management. Without further ado, let us welcome the Executive Vice President for Procurement and Supply Institute of Asia, Mr. Jeff M. De Leon.
Thank you very much, Attorney Llames, for the introduction. Good afternoon to everybody here present in the hall, and good afternoon as well to those on Facebook and YouTube. Welcome to this talk. My talk comes from several years of experience in the private sector. No? So, as I understand, the audience that we have now is a mix of both private and government entities. If I may just ask before I start, how many of you are actually involved in procurement by a raise of hands? Okay, very good. Thank you very much. So now I know how to press the position the top. So to preamble the presentation a little bit, as I said, my experience comes from the private sector, no? And for the public sector, of course, I wouldn't claim that they are all applicable or maybe applicable, but I guess as they are ideas, no, please bear with me, and I hope we all keep an open mind that in the spirit of finding improvement and furthering our service to the Filipino people, I guess I hope you can welcome the contents of the talk. Okay, so further to the introduction. So I come from the university, straight from university. I went to supply chain. No? So I started with inventory management, purchasing services, recording PRs and POs very diligently, creating a system way back before in 1986 of how to efficiently record transactions, PR without PO, PO without delivery, delivery without receipt, no, and then rating buyers, no, and I think in the realm of IT at that time, we were very proud to have automated that using only 4 megabytes of storage, which was called the super micro at that time, which at this time, your 4 megabytes of storage might not even be something to be proud of if you have a phone that has like 1 terabyte or 256 gigabytes of storage, no? So we progressed, and up to these times, I guess, as you have seen in the board, the last one of the few last engagements I had were with Globe Telecom. At Globe Telecom, we were in charge of buying everything from pencil to towers to whole telecom networks. And these were, if you might say, of course, office supplies at Globe Telecom was about 100 million pesos already at that time. It was no small spend, big spend pa rin. But of course, larger spend would be the telecom facilities and network components, no, which amount to billions and billions of pesos, all under our organization in procurement. And then my last work was with distribution, which was at Golden ABC. If you know Golden ABC, they're the makers of Pen Shop and Regatta, Oxygen and Formi, no? Well, construction in a retail environment involves building a store in less than 30 days with all the constraints of the mall, having to work only at night, no? And making sure that you save money in the process, and then make it as fast as possible because you want to earn, as a private entity, you want to earn as fast as possible. Now, also, I guess at Golden ABC, one of the last thing that I did was to automate our distribution center, which was 2.5 hectares big, and which was run by robots, no? Literally robots. No? So you would see robots running around, putting your package where it should be, whether it be a for me store in Cebu, shipped by air, sea, or land. It had a robot addressing it. So, my job at PASIA, and this is just a picture of some of the sessions that we hold, no? My job at PASIA is to help people forward their skills in supply management, no? In the previous slide, our services encompass everything from consulting, training, services, and technology, no? So we have a lot of clients in the Philippines, and we're very proud that a lot of them have actually benefited with the trainings that we have conducted, no? We have supply chain training, we have procurement and logistics training. Everything you see under each one, we provide, no? So we have new students, we have seasoned practitioners, and I would be proud, no, and I would not be lying to you, and I would not be bragging in excess, pa, that they have their aha moments. So if you have any like training needs, I guess this is the advertising portion of it. So you're welcome to contact us. Big clients, for example, like JG Summit. JG Summit would not hire procurement practitioners in their company unless they are certified procurement professionals. That's how serious they are. Lance Gokongwei says, to be hired at JG Summit, you have to be a certified strategic sourcing procurement person. San Miguel Corporation, way back around 10 years ago or more, we already helped them save millions and millions of pesos through the implementation of software called Ariba, an e-procurement platform. And they have seen firsthand what they could do with software and managing their processes. We also have Philippine Airlines, which during the pandemic, as you know, declared bankruptcy, but immediately we were called by the owners to conduct a strategic sourcing study, and then immediately also they went back into the black. And then we have one of our ASEAN partners, Petronas. Of course, we all know Petronas. It's like a Petron in Philippines. And they have a cadre of about, if talk about cadre, 2,500 procurement people in their purchasing organization. And they require everybody to be trained by PASIA. So these are just some of the few clients that we have. So the main title of the talk was about efficiency. Now, of course, the way I will be attacking this topic is to, I guess, in a word, is it efficiency first or effectivity or effectiveness? Diba? We learned from college that you can be efficient but not effective, and you can be effective without being efficient. But first, you need to be effective. You must be doing the right thing, right? And you must be doing the right thing well. And when you're doing the right thing very, very well, you're efficient. So that's where this talk will be coming from. There's another letter E that we have to be reminded, especially in procurement. And that letter E is, if anybody could guess, is the word economy. Correct, right? So you cannot be just, of course, I guess it goes without saying, effective, efficient. You should be economical, no? Okay. Oh. I think we should be back a couple of. Oh, there. Next slide. Next slide, please. So this is the whole supply chain. No, the whole supply chain is nothing more than plan, source, make, deliver, and return. And there are three three flows that are very important in the supply chain. First is the product flow, which moves from right to left to right. And if it's returned from right to left, no? There's money flowing, cash flow, and there's information flow that's flowing in between. What's important about this is that on the left hand of your screen, there are things that need to be met. In a nutshell, axiers, no? These are business needs. Procurement will not be doing its job if it's remiss of the axiers, no? Which are assurance of supply, quality, service, cost, innovation, regulatory requirements, and sustainability. Previously, sustainability was not even on that chart, no? But nowadays, it is. However, I guess in a lot of organizations nowadays, whether they be private or public, the S acronym, sustainability, is just put there as almost as an earmarker, but there are sometimes no real numbers to tag the company against, no? But more and more we're seeing numbers and real qualifiers or criteria to match against sustainability. And on your right hand, supply chain is a management of risk, creating value, and managing costs. No, that's all it is about actually. It's not about getting the lowest supplier. Never is and never was and should never be. No. So here in our understanding as supply chain practitioners, since you are all in procurement, and I believe that procurement has the largest or has the widest or the broadest understanding of what the supply chain is. These are the things that we have to manage. And why do I say that the procurement people have the broadest understanding of what the supply chain is? Because they are the recipients of whatever was forecasted. Diba? Nobody else tells you, shares with us what the forecast is. Only procurement, diba? And only procurement knows how to make it or buy it or make it happen. And only procurement should know how it is actually made. And we are process experts supposed to be. Because if we're not process experts, I guess we'll not be able to break down costs effectively, no? We'll not be able to understand where costs are coming from. Because if we're not experts in the process, we'll just be understanding price. And price is such a nebulous thing, no? Suppliers never tell us about costs. It's us who look for the costs. What things should cost. Diba? Nobody tells us that. And since nobody tells us that, it is something that we study. Or siguro, when I was a younger purchasing professional, I would go to each and every manufacturer to understand how one manufacturer does it and compare it against the other and start asking the 5 whys. Why? Until I know what it is about, di ba? And then the procurement people talk about broad sense. We're the guys who talk to the poorest sales executive who comes to your office every day or every minute and asks you about, may PO na ba ako, boss? May PO na ba ako, boss? Up to the owners, right? Diba? Tayo yun eh. We talk to the lowest person in the organization up to the highest person in the organization, and we know how to talk to them correctly. Correct? We can talk to them about how their day went, magkano na benta mo, saan ka pupunta, di ba? Kumain na ba anak mo, nag-drive ka ba, na-traffic ka ba, ilan na na-cover mo, hanggang sa you talk to the executives, you talk about boss house business, kumusta margins, di ba? May ROI na ba dun sa equipment mo, kumusta importations, naapektuhan ka ba ng China, naapektuhan ka ba ng semiconductors availability, yung mga bagay na napakalaki na even I don't think your spouses, you will be able to talk to them about these things when you're at the dinner table, no? So this is the Just 5 simple words of what supply chain is about, no? And I guess by tackling what matters in these 5 words, we will be able to go into what makes us efficient. I put here, in the context of procurement, government's objectives include these things, no? All of them. If you take the time to read them, from transparency all the way to disaster preparedness, I don't think we are any different, public and private, in ensuring that these objectives are met. Public and private want transparency, right? We want to make sure that everything is as clear as daylight, di ba? Whenever the process is executed. It's as clear as daylight to show that this is the correct choice. But sometimes, our views are muddled, lalo na pagdating sa process, when there are so-called, when there are other people who challenge some decisions kasi lowest price, di ba? Di naman laging lowest price, di ba? Ano bang hinahanap natin, di ba? Total cost of ownership, no? Life cycle, di ba? Bumili ka nga ng printer na mura pero ang mahal pala ng consumables, di ba? Parang ganon. Bumili ka ng siguro special equipment o factory na magte-train pala, ang laki-laki pala ng training costs. Ang laki-laki pala ng maintenance costs. Na ang implementation pala ay kailangan ng foreign consultants na hindi na-impute sa cost. But sometimes those things naman are I guess, a shortcoming in terms of defining all the requirements when the RFP was released, hindi ba? Kasi unless all of those things were identified and detailed in the RFP, I guess the suppliers will only respond to what you have given them, di ba? If you don't ask, sabi nga sa procurement, di ba? If you don't ask, you will never have to learn also in procurement. Ask. In many occasions, procurement will, or people like me in procurement will be sitting in a meeting, especially I'm not an ECE, and therefore when we're talking about telecommunications network equipment at Globe Telecom, I will be asking about what's that acronym? Ang dami namang acronym, and probably I would be the only one in the room parang asking such quote-unquote stupid questions. But no question is stupid if you don't really know, di ba? You will never know, di ba? There's a famous athlete by the name of Wayne Gretzky. I don't know if you know him. Kung si Michael Jordan sa basketball, si Wayne Gretzky sa hockey. Sabi niya, you miss 100% of the shots you never take. Diba? So you don't ask, you never know. Diba? You don't take the shot, you don't even have a chance of making the shot. So I think one of the learnings for us in procurement is to ask. I think private entities will not have the social and community goals, though. I mean, not very emphasized, but it might be mentioned in public procurement, no? Preferential treatment for people who come from the locality. Although private business will always state in their procurement goals that we strive to be good corporate citizens in the communities where we operate, no? So that would be equivalent to that. So on top of that, I think we all think that after the pandemic, we'll all be coming back to our desks and just doing the BAU or business as usual stuff. But lo and behold, we have so many things that complicate our lives, like wars, no? In many, many parts of the world now. COVID, health, no? Climate changes, whatever, di ba? And we're not even talking about AI and chat GPT, di ba? These are really interesting times, no? When AI and chat GPT can change the way we live. For example, even in procurement, where we nowadays emphasize that the things that we're doing, I think, have to elevate to a different level, something that comes from the tactical level of procurement to a more strategic level of procurement. When I say tactical, what does that mean? When I was young, and that was many, many years ago, in 1983, when I graduated, the task was to make sure you were efficient. PR without PO, dapat mataas yung mga PP, mabilis ka mag-PO. PO without delivery, dapat pinio mo sa tamang supplier. Yun lang yung mga ano. It was basically passing papers. That's transactional. In the world of AI, even that can be replaced by AI, if you think about it. So we have to be very smart about how to handle our careers, or your careers, how to handle your careers. Because I'm now retired and you're left to do that job, no? You should be smart about how to handle your careers, where you actually add value and be efficient in that part, no? So in terms of talent, I think we have a client that's in the EPC, or engineering, procurement, and construction. They're experiencing a lot of problems about talent, no? Engineers, procurement people especially. Do you know that certification helps you a lot? By the way, if you're thinking about certification, just to mention, way back then, we were certified in, we acquired a certification called the Certified Purchasing Manager, which was an exam by the Institute for Supply Management in Tempe, Arizona. So that is a lifetime certification. And owing to that certification, because that ISM is very important in whenever for example, the United States President quotes the state of the economy, he always quotes the ISM report on manufacturing, always, to tell whether the economy is growing or not growing. So anyway, just to tell you about if you're managing your career, those certifications are important. For example, not to encourage you to go abroad and work there. Nowadays, CPMs, if you browse your internet and look for jobs in America for CPMs, I think they would be no less than $100,000 per year. But you have to be a CPM. But that was way back 10, 20 years ago when I was checking. I'd say now there'd be easily $150,000. Why? Because the value of knowing your business as a CPM, as a real true blue certified or a procurement manager, really adds value to the enterprise, or in some of your cases, the public sector. So talent, no? So managing talent. Who among you have heard of strategic sourcing? Can I have a... Okay, one. Very good, thank you. So strategic sourcing is not new. It's a process, a rigorous one at that. It requires continuously managing supplier relationships. It's a long process that's been embarked on by companies like Ford, Walmart, Amazon, any company you know that's big, you name it, private enterprises. In the US, for example, even federal governments, even the federal government and some states have embarked on strategic sourcing process initiatives, no? Like New York, California, Pennsylvania, no? Why? Because they know that this process brings value. And let me tell you a little bit more about it. In terms of benefits, it aligns your business objectives with the things that you're doing. Remember, I told you earlier that everything that we do should come from what the business wants to achieve. It talks about spend management. After all, in procurement, that's what we're trying to manage, diba? How much is my organization buying and how can I buy it more wisely? Do I need 10,000 suppliers to achieve my goal, or do I just need a few? Can I actually do my work if I had 10,000 suppliers, or can I do it with just a few? And who are responsible for sourcing? Diba? This will require a certain change of mindset in how procurement work has to be done. But most of all, you achieve all these things, but still you achieve transparency and visibility. So it answers the questions, what are we buying? Where are we buying these from? Who are we buying these from? How much are we buying? How much did we buy in the past? How much are we paying? Where are these needed? Who will need them? Who are the customers? Even in our daily lives, we exercise a bit of strategic sourcing, di ba? For example, yung mga grocery natin, alam na natin saan mura, di ba? Alam mo na yung meron kang budget na gustong spend, na kapag ginastos mo sa isang supermarket na mamahalin, hindi pagkakasya budget mo di ba? Tapos, alam mo na kung saan ka pupunta para makapagtipid ka, di ba? Kung at tataas pa natin ng konti in the private sector, alam mo na for example, in a pharmaceutical company, alam mo na marami kayong medrep, di ba? At a certain number of medreps are going to buy cars. So, given a certain budget at the beginning of the year, you already have more or less an idea what you're gonna need, di ba? How many cars? And therefore, you go to the finance guy, to your CFO and say, ilan bang kotse bibili natin, boss? Baka naman, ano ba yung specs ng bibili natin? Ano bang kailangan mo? Di ba? Baka naman makagawa tayo ng mabuting deal if we go direct and source, no? And then kahit na makatipid lang tayo 5,000, pera is pera, di ba? Sa manufacturing, of course, di ba? All the more, di ba? If you know you're gonna use a certain number of cartons, tin cans, boxes, plastics, di ba? Labor, you can negotiate, di ba? Di ba? In construction, which Globe has many of, or in pen shop, which pen shop has many of, we already have a target of how many cell sites? 6,000 cell sites ba yan? This year? This year lang ba? But cell sites don't stop growing, di ba? So you have more or less an idea, something that you can put on the negotiation table to leverage against the many suppliers that want your business. Di ba? And this is the beginning of strategically thinking what it is, how it is to buy the things that you're going to buy. I guess, pwede na sigurong 1-year term, no? Pwede ng 1-year horizon. Pero better if you have 2 or 3. Not that you will commit the second or the third, but at least you can secure the first. Di ba? a fair bit of warning, yung mga procurement, wala naman kayong tatak na letter S dito, di ba? Hindi naman kayo Superman, di ba? Hindi naman tayo Superman. So pagka project siya na ganyan, it requires collaboration. It doesn't involve, it's not about you. Procurement people wear a lot of hats. One of them is being a project manager. And in this case, you are called to be a manager of the project called strategic sourcing. Okay. In our world, it's an 8-step process. It's a long, rigorous process. And it starts with scoping, spend analysis, and shareholder management. Meaning, you understand what you're going to buy and who are the ones who are going to need it. Di ba? Bakit mo kailangan malaman sino yung shareholder? Kasi they're the ones that will be most affected by what you're going to do. Because they're the ones who will tell you what they need and whether the result of what you have done meets what they need. Kasi otherwise, if you do this alone, you might end up buying something that they don't even really want or they don't even recognize, hindi ba? So it's important. The first one is to know what is it you're buying and who you're buying it from. Business needs analysis. Now that you know who they are, you go back to Axiers, di ba? How do you make sure they will state their requirements? I need to have supply for so and so months, days, years, on demand with this quality, no? With this cost, because nowadays it's not about the cost that you get, but about the target cost of your company. I don't know how that translates to public procurement. Kasi sometimes public procurement is based on a budget, di ba? And you're buying against the budget, and it probably the best one that beats the budget will be the best one. Maybe, I'm not sure, so pardon me if my understanding is incorrect. But in the private sector, it can get very, 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 I say, stressful, because somebody from marketing or sales will tell you the target to sell this is at 1 peso. Therefore, to get a margin of 50%, you better look for supply that says this only 50 centavos. Even knowing that the market scan based on canvases gives you something higher, di ba? It's now target pricing, target costing rather, not target pricing. Because for them, the target price at which they will introduce a product, whether that be a telephone, an Apple, or a shoe, or whatever, meets certain requirements about penetrating the market, di ba? And generating a reach. And therefore, medyo iba yung labanan, di ba? Very stressful. Current state analysis is nothing more than a statement of where are we now? How are we doing things? Sourcing strategy development is understanding, sige, now that we know what we're buying, now that we know how much, and now, how do we source? Do we make it? Do we buy it? Diba? Do we have it bidded? How? And then the sourcing event itself is the responses to the RFP, RFQ. Should it be e-bidded? Should it be reverse auction? How many of us here have done reverse auction, by the way? Reverse auction. E-bidding. Okay, so ito, again, in the private sector, baka this is something very useful to the public sector kasi come to think of it, no? Di ba ang normal process, whether private tayo or public, nagpapa-RFP tayo, di ba? Rigorous yung RFP. Pagka may clarification, sagot. Di ba? Pag may tanong, sagot over a few days, weeks, or sometimes, di ba? And then at the end of it all, yung mandatory requirements natin should be met, right? Kasi mandatory, di ba? Tapos merong mga ibang extraneous requirements, bells and whistles na may have, nice to have, drop mo na yan, di ba? Kasi hindi naman kailangan eh. Di ba? Pero kung magsistay ka dun sa mandatory requirements, sabihin mo, good na tayo. Ano na lang pinag-usapan? Presyo, di ba? Paano ba yung, sa private, medyo mahirap yung best and final offer tas hindi magme-meet ng budget. Tapos mag-isa pang round. Best na final offer na to. Tapos pag hindi nag-meet pa rin, best na talaga, di ba? Which is not available sa public, di ba? Also, tama ba? It's not available yung mga ganung mga rounds, di ba? So, e-procurement or reverse auction says, ilalagay ko dyan sa cloud, ang kailangan ko ma-meet ng X million pesos, bidan nyo, pababaan. Hanggat habang bumababa, hindi natatapos. At kapag natapos na dahil meron ng pinakamababa at ayaw nang lumaban, tapos na. It's very transparent, very clean, very simple, very fast. No? And then supplier evaluation. Of course, a sourcing event never ends with just an award. No? You have to make sure that the suppliers that were chosen are really up to it, no? And then recommending the decision, and then implementing it and managing the supplier, and then all over again, Why is this such a big thing sa private or for us procurement? Why is it such a big thing? Kasi organizations have transformed from merely passing paper to managing categories. Nagbago na yung trabaho ng procurement. Dati, PRPO. Kailangan mo na semento, PRPO. Diba? Ngayon, nag-shift yung work na yung person handling cement knows everything about cement. Anong klaseng cement? Saan source ng cement? Anong packaging ng cement? Sinong gumagawa ng cement? Saan tayo bibili ng cement? Isa lang siya. At lahat, everything about cement or construction related to cement, pwedeng, what do you call that? Precast panels, di ba? Pwedeng stressed beams. Pwedeng sa kanya din. Or for example, rebars. Anything about steel and rebars, isang tao lang siguro hahawak niyan. Whether specialty steel, lahat ng BI, lahat ng GI. Yung trabaho ng procurement, naging siyang expert-led, category management-led. Nagbago. Di ba? Meron pwedeng maging expert sa IT. Tatanungin mo about anything about IT, laptops, desktops, servers, memory, CPU, AVRs, power supplies. Lahat yun, sakop niya. San bibili? China, Taiwan, US. Anong brand? Dell, di ba? Lenovo, HP, Acer. Sakop niya. Alam niya yung availability. It becomes a different world when you talk about strategic sourcing. And that person becomes efficient. Why? Because since he's handling a category, for example, anything about laptops, he will probably have all the suppliers at his beck and call with a contract to hold on to at least for a year. And his job is to make sure that the contract is always alive and the prices are always current. Why is it efficient? Ba, isang kontrata lang gagawin ko para sa laptop, no? Hindi ako nag-PPO ng 1,000 requisitioner, 1,000 laptop. Isang kontrata lang inayos ko. Pero mahaba yung proseso sa umpisa. No? O isang kontrata lang ginawa ko sa lahat ng klase na rebar. Ito si supplier A, kaya niyang rebar types 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ito 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ito 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Ito 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Di ba? Tigi-tigi isang kontrata lang. Lahat ng patungkol sa kontratang ganito yung kailangan, kaya ko yan. Sagot ko yan. Hindi siya parang nag-overtime dahil gumagawa pa ako ng PO. He's very efficient. But he's also very transparent. He's also very effective. Diba? The next, please. So there are steps that I think you would like to delve more deeply upon something called spend analysis, because this is probably the root or the start of, or one of the start of the things that you have to do, analyzing what you're spending on. Kasi I don't know if, I think even in the private sector, for example, us making pharmaceuticals or making clothes, year in, year out, since we're a pharmaceutical company or we are a clothes company or fashion retail company, we just buy clothes, right? We just buy pharmaceuticals. Parang hindi naman magbabago tomorrow, we will sell IT. Hindi naman mangyayari yun. We will still sell pharmaceuticals. We will still sell clothes, di ba? I think to a certain extent, ganun din sa public procurement. Year after year, you're buying the same goods, office supplies, contracted, janitorial, cleaning, mga ganyan, water, IT, EPC, di ba? Year in, year out, they're the same stuff, di ba? That doesn't change, di ba? So you have a history. You know what you buy. And over time, I think we should have expertise, whoever's handling that. No? The good thing also about analyzing your spend is when you are able to do a complete strategic sourcing study, mawawala yung tinatawag nilang maverick spend. Kasi nakagawa ka ng isang kontrata na mag-hold sa lahat ng binibili mo of the same item. Hindi na po pwede na sasabihin, ay, napabili ako ng computer sa kasi mura sa Amerika. Di ba? Mawawala yung ganon. Yung maverick na nagkanya-kanya, lumabas siya sa kontrata. Why? Kasi pwede, sige, bumili ka sa Amerika, paano natin susupport yan? Wala, nag-blue screen yan bukas. Saan tayo tatakbo? Hindi naman covered yan ng warranty dito. At saka makukuha mo warranty 1 year. Ang nakukuha ko dahil sa laki ng binibili natin sa Globe, 3 years. Sa pen shop, sa dami, 5 years ang warranty ko. Sira na yung computer, maintain pa ng supplier. Diba? Pero ano naman, mura eh. Pero saan mo dadalhin yung mura mo? Like we said, we're not talking about price. Diba? We're never talking about price. Supplier rationalization, I think or benchmark prices may be very useful, no? Just to help you understand where other suppliers who want to come in, where their prices are, no? Yung supplier rationalization, like I said, kahit naman sa atin sa office, di ba? When we talk about span of control, as a manager or as a vice president or as a head of a department, meron tinatawag na span of control, di ba? Ilan mang kaya mong i-manage na tao? 20? Di naman siguro, di ba? Merong ideal di ba? Between 6 and 10 people that they're directly reporting under you. Beyond that, hindi ka masyadong effective. Below that, medyo tatamarin ka, baka ma-redundate ka, di ba? Ma-merge ka with others. Ganon din sa suppliers. If you have too many, how can you manage too many? Di ba? There's a really good size of suppliers that you should be managing, di ba? And then, of course, everybody has KPI targets wherever you work. So this is just another. We can move to the next one. This is just an elaboration of what we've talked about kanina. So these are some of the graphs that you can that can tickle your mind about what spend analysis really is. Normally, in the private companies, pupuntahan mo yung accounting department, hahanapin mo yung lahat ng binayaran natin last year. Ano binili natin? Diba? Tapos sasabihin mo, saan nagpunta yung binili natin? Alin dyan yung nakakategorize, ibig sabihin, correct yung description. Pag sinabing fan motor talaga yan. Hindi yan shop supplies, no? Tapos, makakategorize mo electrical, incidental, asphalt. Sorry, you can't read very well from where you are. Pero you can slice and dice, as you say, the spend in many ways, no? To give you something important, no? For example, the upper right-hand quadrant says the top 10 suppliers from last year. If you knew who your top 10 suppliers last year were, you would know what you're buying the most, di ba? And if you know how similar they are to the things that you are buying from others, you would know, you can ask yourself, ganun pala kalaki yung binibili natin, I think we could manage it better. Tama ba? Yun na lang idea na yun without knowing, I guess, without going through the rigorous process. But even that, I think, should be an aha moment, di ba? Mapapaisip ka, ay, dalawa lang supplier natin sa isang taon. Parang ganun. Dalawa lang ba dapat kailangan? Or sasabihin mo, ay, 100 pala yung supplier natin. Dapat ba 100? O dapat kaya na ng 10? Di ba? And then, as usual, yung ating go-to na tool kahit na coming from college, di ba? The Pareto analysis, di ba? We know what Pareto is, right? Di ba? 80-20 rule, di ba? The significant few na 20% of the things we're doing matter 80% to us, di ba? And 80% of the things that we're doing will probably matter only about 20%. Di ba? The same thing applies with the things that we buy. There are probably about 20% of the things that you're buying that make up already 80%, 70 to 80% of what you're buying. Diba? And maybe the other things that we're doing, very small, very tiny, may not even actually matter too much. Of course, everything matters pagdating sa procurement. Next, please. Okay, we'll go very fast. Well, we'll go very fast. Knowing what you buy, you can actually group your suppliers depending on how much you buy and how difficult they are. And then let me ask you a question. Is every supplier a partner? Yes. No. Who says yes? Who says no? Okay. It depends. Parang pagka nag-graduate ka, sabi nung anak ko, sabi niya, nung pumasa ka sa bar, yung sagot na it depends, mas mahal na yan. Kasi pumasa na sa bar. Pero nung nag-aaral pa siya ng law, pag sumagot ng it depends, explain further. Pero in reality, it depends, di ba? For example, you're buying 10 million and to you it's big, di ba? But the supplier who supplies it to you is IBM. Does IBM care about 10 million? Baka, while you might consider your 10 million purchase with IBM something like a partnership with them, to them you might be a nuisance, di ba? So, in strategic sourcing, it helps you think about the things that you're buying and how you should be dealing with your suppliers. At the same time, contemplate how does your supplier think of you, which is also important kasi baka akala mo partner tas hindi ka pala partner. Diba? So maraming dynamics yon. So masalimuot. Ayan. They can look to you as a core, profitable, nuisance. And then, like I said, you should go from tactical to strategic, no? Because if you're tactical, you have no proactive sourcing strategies in place. You're reactive. The skill levels are past the paper. In strategic sourcing, you're developing sourcing strategies. It's a step-by-step rigorous process and requires knowledge and competence, no? And I'm sure these KPIs for efficiency will be met. I'm definite about it. Cost savings, supplier performance, procurement cycle time, PO accuracy, inventory turnover, lead time, cost per purchase, maverick spending rate, spend under management, contract compliance, supplier diversity, risk management, sustainability, user satisfaction. Let me tell you, when I went to Globe, about only 60 to 70% of the purchases were actually passing through the procurement department. Sabi ko, boss, nag-PPO yung network, nag-PPO yung IT, nag-PPO yung HR. Lahat na lang na may gustong bibilin, bibili silang kani-kanya. Sabi ko, hindi ito po pwede. So ginawa namin strategic sourcing. Siguro at the end of 6 months, 99%. Everything was passing through procurement. And we were saving about 2 billion pesos a year. Kasi centralized. But it's not, I guess not all organizations possibly mag-centralize, di ba? But one thing you can do is, if the head knows what they're buying, it can be different organizations buying, and it can be center-led. Di ba? You have the proficiency, and you can tell everybody that this is how to do it, this is how to do it, this is how to do it, this is how to do it. It can still be flexible and decentralized, but led from the center. Okay, so it doesn't have to copy the centralized organization. Okay, so for us, of course, I cannot explain a lot in 45 minutes to an hour, but these are the things that we are doing. So many, from A to Z: plan, source, move, return. And I'm certain, I'm very certain, I'm very confident that we can, there's a lot that the Procurement and Supply Institute of Asia can help you with. So we're offering, we do online, we do webinars, we do coaching and mentoring. We can do e-learning. No? Ito ginagawa sa sa Malaysia from the Philippines. We have mobile learning. We have instructor recorded training. And yeah. And by the way, on November 15 and 16, we have a national conference or international conference called PASIA World. We've invited guests from here and abroad, Boston Consulting, Scotland. We're talking about AI. We're talking about sustainability. We're talking about HR. We're talking about procurement efficiency, things like that. So we hope you could come because it will be a good time. Every year we hold this. Last time we held this was last year also, about same time last year. We had about 400 guests. So we'll expect about 400 also on November 15 and 16. I think this is the last, if not the last. Thank you very much for your time. If you have questions, si attorney tanongin niyo.
Again, good afternoon. And let us have another round of applause to our resource speaker for leading a very informative and comprehensive discussion on procurement efficiency. Sir, if we could still have a few moments of your time, as we will now proceed with the open forum. Perhaps a couple of questions. Sige, sir. For our first question from Luis, procurement can be for a while. Okay, procurement can be pressuring and demanding. How can one still maintain an equilibrium? Yes. All right.
How can you be sane while doing it? How can you maintain your sanity? How can one still maintain equilibrium while attending to the pressure and demands calmly and efficiently? So, calmly. Can you? No, it's the natural instinct, of course, is for you to let your pride get the better of you, right? then that's the natural instinct. But sometimes you have to remember that it's not about you. It's about what the company or the entity requires. And we are an agent. And therefore, thus being the same as the other party, arrogant and rash, even help? I don't think it will, no? But having said that, that's a different story kasi that's about character, no? I would say that it demands, in terms of character, a lot is demanded of the procurement person in terms of character. Can you imagine, for example, how can a procurement person not have character when you're asked to handle millions and millions of pesos and not take a centavo of it? Isn't that character? Diba? If you can withstand that pressure, I'm sure you can withstand some of those demands. However, on the professional side of it, the stresses, as they say, it's par for the course, di ba? Given, expected. Talagang procurement is a pressure cooker job, di ba? And the only way, I guess, that can help you is to plan better. If it will always happen that we will be in a pressure cooker situation if we are unprepared. They ask for a supplier you don't know anything about. You have selected a supplier that is not delivering. That is a failure somewhere in the process. Hindi ba? You are being asked to stand by to compete against a price. Di ba? That is way below what the price that you have selected. Di ba? And you cannot stand by your process. Why did you select your price? At the end of the day, you ask yourself, did I miss anything? That's the first thing, di ba? Sometimes. Or was I negligent in the way we have selected that price? Can we not justify the cost of what we bought? In those cases, if we have been remiss, we can only blame ourselves if we are put in a pressure cooker situation. But the best thing for the procurement person talaga is to be prepared, to be aware, to be informed, to think on a higher plane sometimes even more than just going to passing papers. Pabid ka tapos lahat yan matitibag by 3 bids in a quote.
Thank you, sir. Perhaps another, okay. So from Ms. Telma, what best practices in private procurement can we adopt in government procurement? Sir?
Actually, marami na eh. Marami na sa private practice na pwedeng adapt sa government procurement. I was in the other talk just a few minutes before I entered, before lunch. And one of the topics that was being discussed was about frame agreements. Diba? Frame agreements. You know what? Frame agreements, we were using that in Globe 20 years ago. 20 years ago pa ho namin ginagamit yung frame agreements. Bakit? Kasi nga dahil nga sa strategic sourcing na ginawa namin, where we said that we're gonna build sites. We know you're gonna need generators, di ba? How many generators? 6,000? Who are the best suppliers of generators? And we talk to them. And we demand what we need from them. Should be this KVA, should last this much, should be serviceable, should have parts, etc., etc. And then we establish frame agreements, diba? And then frame agreements for construction, 10 years ago pa rin. Frame agreements for towers, 20 years ago. What's the other thing? Of course, maybe the limitation in public procurement is handling the escalation. But we have very good lawyers, diba? Even us in the private sector cannot hold a supplier to their prices this year, good for next year or the year after next, diba? That's why in procurement, we arm ourselves with something called knowing what the should costs will be, which requires education, diba? So kung tumaas, for example, ang gasolina ng X%, dapat ba tumaas ang presyo? That's embedded in a contract. Kung tumaas yung dollar rate ng X%, tataas ba presyo? That's embedded in the contract. Tapos kapag tumaas ng X% ang dollar, ang procurement is always ready to say na kunwari 10% ang tinaas ng dollar, dapat ba 10% tumaas ang presyo? Hindi, di ba? Bakit tumaas ba yung labor ng 10%? Tumaas ba yung sweldo mo ng 10%? Dapat yung component lang na tataas ng 10% o apektado ng price. So therefore, what I'm saying is, merong should cost analysis. Merong price cost relationship analysis. Pagdating naman dun sa when I was at Chevron, yung mga tangke ng LPG, tumataas ang bakal. Syempre tataas, di ba? Phoenix yung price ng LPG. Pataas ang presyo ng bakal. Hindi nag-supply, tumigil ng supply. Bakit? Kasi hindi na kaya ng supplier, di ba? Dapat naka-price index dun sa kontrata. Merong indexing. Ito yung relationship ng presyo ng LPG sa presyo ng bakal sa world market. So things like that are best practices already used by the private sector. Also, e-bidding, di ba? Yung reverse auction na pababaan lang ng presyo. As an example lang, please bear with me, no? Apologies dun sa next speaker. Meron kami isang kwarto sa Globe Telecom noon na siguro mga 12 or 20 computer. Magpapabid kami ng isang item. Say for example, bond paper, kasi malakas kami gumamit ng bond paper. Papasok yung 12 supplier. Tapos meron sila sa kani-kanyang computer. Tapos sasabihin namin, ang presyo ng bond paper namin ngayon, 100 lang. Mag-bid kayo ng pababaan, 1 year supply. Tapos kanya-kanyang pindot, 12, walang magkakaalaman. Nalalaman lang nila ano yung pinakamura na bid. Increments of 1 peso. Merong magbibid na 99, may magbibid na 97, may 96. Hindi mo alam saan nanggagaling. Pero at the end of the day, at the end of the session, makukuha mo ng 80 pesos yung 100 na yon. Kasi parang nakakawili eh. Diba? Nakaka-100. Reverse auction ang tawag. Now, later on, we applied it to, we developed the software for ourselves na anywhere, anytime, any person in the world who's invited can bid. Pwede kang Nokia, nandun ka sa Finland. Pwede kang Ericsson, nasa Sweden. Pwede kang Huawei, nasa China. Using that facility, they can still do it e-bidding. Nowadays, we're doing that sa PASIA for an academic institution, and they're saving billions for us. We were saving billions for them. But we don't have this we don't have this in public, no? Many things. I think there's a lot. There's really absolutely a lot.
Another question, sir, from Miss Anna. As a government procurement practitioner, how do we measure the efficiency of the practitioners? I think, sir, this is in connection with, because I think it was mentioned earlier, in the private sector at least, one of the measurements would be you earn as fast as possible, no? How could earn as fast as possible? How about in government procurement? What may be the parameters that we could use to measure efficiency?
Earn as in the company earns, no? Tama ba? Yung katapat kasi sa public, in my humble opinion, and I'm not an expert in this, I think is the delivery of the service to the public at the best cost possible. Diba? Ako as a taxpayer, I tend to benchmark lang against the things that I see, the things that I use. For example, pupunta ako sa isang probinsya or sa isang lalawigan o isang city, tapos makikita ko ang kinis ng pagkakagawa ng kalsada. Sementado, pintado, yung mga sidewalks, ang linis. Tapos pupunta ako doon sa susunod, hindi pareho. Samantalang, kung in my general understanding of the population, mas marangya yung isang LGU, for example. That as a taxpayer is my measurement of, is the service delivered? Nakokolekta ba yung basura? May basura ba sa kalsada? So, in the public sector, the efficiency is how are taxpayer pesos spent and services delivered to the taxpayers efficiently. Pero from a procurement standpoint, internally hindi ko alam anong KPI sa sa public procurement paano mini-measure. But I'll tell you one thing, 'di ba? Babalik lang ako sa strategic sourcing. There are different things that you will ask your procurement practitioners to buy, and everybody has a role kasi merong mga big ticket items na bibilin ka, 'di ba? Merong mga small ticket items, mga office supplies, mga ganyan, 'di ba? Tapos hindi lahat ng tao naman iba-iba, 'di ba? Meron kang mga tao na magiging efficient pag inassign mo sa big ticket items kasi magaling sila magsalita, magaling sila mag-negotiate. The head of whoever that organization is should be aware of the distribution of the people kasi you should be assigning people to the right boxes or else they might not be performing Kasi meron naman talaga magaling na mag-PRPO lang, di ba? Meron lang magaling magta-type at mag-ano. Let them be. There are some people who are really like that. Maybe they are efficient in that way there as procurement people. Maybe they're efficient handling difficult projects. Maybe they're efficient handling difficult people, di ba? Maybe they're efficient making contracts or understanding how things work. It's really, it's very more complicated than that, I guess, yung efficiency ng procurement. But definitely, hindi siya yung ilan PO na issue mo. Kano kakabilis mag-issue ng PO. Parang baka hindi na yun yung outdated na yung efficiency measure na yun.
Thank you, sir. So at this juncture, we open the floor to our participants here. Perhaps you could, a couple of questions from the participants here. Just please approach the microphone. Introduce yourself before you ask your questions. Please. At least 2 questions from our live audience. Ma'am, thank you.
Oh, sure.
Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. I am Maria Teresita Macana Semana from PhilJeps. Sir, na-mention niyo po yung e-reverse auction and the other techniques. And being in the government, napakita niyo po yung positive dahil na-experience niyo. So, i-reverse po natin. Ano naman po yung disadvantages ng e-reverse auction and the other techniques or strategies that you mentioned that us in the government should be cautioned? Should we apply those strategies?
Okay.
Salamat po.
Thank you po sa question. Sa reverse auction, sa totoo lang wala pa ako nakitang disadvantage. It has always been favorable or advantageous to the company because you always generate the lowest price. Okay. As a tool, di ba? Like any other tool, hindi siya pwedeng abusuhin, di ba? Kasi, for example, nag-reverse auction ako ng bond paper from 100 naging 80. You think sa next time ako magpapa-quote ng bond paper, magre-reverse auction ulit ako? Hindi na. 'Di ba? Parang kasing wala nang kabuluhan. Kasi kahit kapag tinapatan ko siya ng should cost analysis, alam kong hindi na bababa pa sa 80 or bababa na lang siya ng konti. At saka mapapagod yung supplier, magagalit din, 'di ba? Kumbaga kung may martilyo ka, gamitin mo lang sa tamang, pag nakabaon na yung pako, tigil na, 'di ba? Huwag ka nang gagamitin. Like, ang kasabihan sa English is, if you only had a hammer, that's the only tool you know how to use, di ba? At wag naman sanang ganon. Ano ba yung mga ibang tools pa? Marami ko kasing mga ibang tools like should cost analysis, total cost of ownership. These things, natututunan sila. Like for example lang, isa na lang. Di ba marami sa mga suppliers natin nagbibigay ng price list, di ba? Price list. Tapos price break. Kapag bumili ka ng 1,000 more, ganito yung presyo. Bili ka ng 1,000 more, ganito yung presyo. May science din yun. Hindi yun basta, ganun ba? O sige, pataasin ko na lang, di ba? Tapos merong science yun how to analyze those things. Tatapatan mo ng finance, tatapatan mo ng konting Excel, makukuha mo yung presyo. Or should cost analysis ng halimbawa, why is that price of a bottle the price it is, di ba? Why? And so you ask and you investigate. Marami po. I think I haven't seen that. There's, of course, like all tools, some tools are good for some tools are not applicable to some. There's a right tool for the right question. Thank you po.